She had the voice of an angel, the wit of a comic, and the heart of a connector. Yet for 50 years, Cass Elliot, Mama Cass, of the Mamas and the Papas, has been reduced to a very cruel joke, overshadowed by a false and damaging myth. We'll cover her musical career and dismantle the rumor that haunted her name for years. Welcome to That's Life, I Swear. This podcast is about life's happenings in this world that conjure up such words as intriguing, frightening, life-changing, inspiring, and more. I'm Rick Barron, your host. That said, here's the rest of this story. Cass Elliot was born Ellen Naomi Cohen in Baltimore, Maryland on September 19, 1941. She was a vocal powerhouse whose rich, soulful voice helped define the sound of the 1960s folk rock. Best known as a member of the Mamas and the Papas, Elliot's journey through the music industry was as complex and multifaceted as her personality. Her life was a tapestry of triumph and tragedy, marked by incredible success and personal struggles that endeared her to fans and fellow musicians alike. Cass grew up in a Jewish family. She displayed a passion for wanting to be a musical performer from an early age, often singing in school productions and local events. Her powerful voice and natural charisma set her apart, hinting at the great singer she would become one day. Her parents placed a high premium on getting a good education, but Cass's focus wasn't on sitting in a classroom. She eventually built up enough nerve to strike a deal with her parents. Her deal was if she moved to New York and didn't find musical success in 5 years, she would come home and study a more respectable field, like medicine. Her parents knew they couldn't stop Cass as she was very determined. They relented, and Cass moved to New York City as a teenager to pursue her dreams of a Broadway career. Now, while her theatrical ambitions didn't immediately materialize, this period shaped her musical taste and connections. In New York's vibrant Greenwich Village folk scene, Cass began to find her music identity while being influenced from the likes of Bob Dylan and Joan Baez. In the early 1960s, Elliot joined forces with Tim Rose and John Brown to form the Big Three, a folk trio that gained modest success but allowed Cass to polish her performing skills. This experience was pivotal as it introduced her to the world of professional music and set the stage for her future musical success. The turning point in Cass Elliot's career came in 1965 when she joined Denny Doherty, John Phillips, and Michelle Phillips to form the Mamas and the Papas. This iconic quartet would define the California sound of the 1960s, blending folk with rock and pop to create a unique and recognizable style. Now, at first, the band leader John Phillips was totally against the idea. According to Scott G. Shea, a biographer of the Mamas and the Papas, Phillips envisioned a group that not only sounded like an electrified Peter, Paul, and Mary, but also looked like them. Shea stated Michelle was to be the centerpiece, and in his mind, Cass was, just too fat even to be considered. Cass's powerful, heartwarming voice became a cornerstone of the group's sound. Her ability to harmonize beautifully with the other members while standing out as a soloist was key to their success. The group's first hit, California Dreamin', released in 1965, launched them to stardom. Cass's distinctive vocals on this track and others, like Monday Monday and Dream a Little Dream of Me, helped cement her status as one of the most recognizable voices of her generation. Ironically, when California Dreamin' was released in December of 1965 and became a huge hit, Cass remembers telling an interviewer, I recall telling my parents if I didn't make it in music in 5 years, I'd come home and go to school. Well, looks like I just made it under the wire. During this time period, Cass experienced the rapid highs of fame and success. The group's performance at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967 and appearances on popular TV shows brought them widespread acclaim. However, this era was marked by personal challenges for Cass. Her love for her fellow bandmate, Denny Doherty and struggles with her weight in an image-conscious industry took an emotional toll on her. Now, despite these challenges, Cass's vivacious personality and incredible talent continued to glow. She became known for her quick wit and warm presence, endearing her to fans and fellow musicians. Her ability to infuse joy and emotion into her performances made her a standout even with the incredibly talented group. The Mamas and the Papas did disband in 1968, marking the end of a very transformative chapter in Cass's life. Now, while the breakup was difficult, it also allowed her to explore her potential as a solo artist. Cass Elliott's transition to a solo career brought many exciting moments and challenges. Her first solo album, Dream a Little Dream, released in 1968, showcased her versatility as a great artist. The title track, a re-imaging of the 1931 classic, became one of her signature songs and demonstrated her ability to breathe new life into classical material. Throughout the late 1960s and early 1970s, Cass released a string of solo albums that allowed her to explore different musical styles, from pop and rock to blues and jazz. Her powerful voice and emotional depth shined in songs like Make Your Own Kind of Music and It's Getting Better, which later became anthems of self-empowerment and optimism. Cass's solo career also saw her branching out into television. She appeared on popular variety shows. In 1969, she hosted her TV special, the Mama Cass television program, featuring guests like Joni Mitchell and John Sebastian of the Lovin' Spoonful. However, her solo careers were not without struggles. The music industry's focus on image often overshadowed her immense talent, and she faced cruel comments about her weight. Despite these challenges, Cass maintained a resilient spirit and continued to push forward, using her platform to advocate for body positivity and self-acceptance. Her struggles with weight were a constant source of emotional pain, exacerbated by the media's cruel focus on her appearance. Despite her confident public persona, these pressures did take a toll on her self-esteem and sometimes affected her professional opportunities. Cass's love life was equally tumultuous. She married James Hendricks in 1963, but the marriage was brief, and she divorced in 1968. In 1967, she gave birth to her daughter, Owen Vanessa Elliot, choosing to raise her as a single mother. This decision reflected Cass's independent spirit and determination to live on her own terms. Throughout her career, Cass battled with substance abuse issues, a common struggle among musicians of her era. These challenges sometimes interfered with her performance and contributed to her health problems. However, friends and colleagues often spoke of her warmth, generosity, and infectious laugh, highlighting the complexity of her character. Now, despite personal struggles, Cass remained committed to her music and to social causes. She was an outspoken supporter of the civil rights movement and used her platform to advocate for equality and justice. Her compassion and social causes endeared her to fans and fellow activists alike. The early 1970s saw Cass continuing to perform and record, though with less commercial success than in her heyday with the Mamas and the Papas. She remained a beloved figure in the music world, respected for her talent and trailblazing spirit. In 1974, Cass embarked on a series of sold-out performances at the London Palladium, marking a triumphant return to the spotlight. Her shows were well received with audiences and critics praising her powerful voice and engaging stage presence. Tragically, this would be her final professional triumph. Cass Elliot was overwhelmed by the standing ovation she received on the final night of her performance engagement on Saturday, July 27th. She was so moved, she called her friend Michelle Phillips to share her happiness, crying over the phone about her success at the Palladium. Elliot then began a 24-hour celebration, starting at Mick Jagger's 31st birthday party in London, followed by a brunch in her honor, but appeared unwell, constantly coughing and struggling to breathe. Later, she attended a cocktail party hosted by journalist Jack Martin, where she seemed cheerful but visibly exhausted. She left the party around 8 p.m. on Sunday, July 28th, saying she needed rest. Cass retired to an apartment owned by singer-songwriter Harry Nilsson. Tragically, on July 29th, 1974, she died in her sleep at the age of just 32. A close friend discovered her body. Now, the autopsy conducted by Keith Simpson revealed she died of a heart attack with no drugs in her system. Ironically, 4 years later, Keith Moon of the band The Who died in the same bedroom, also at the age of 32. Now, contrary to the false rumor, Cass Elliot did not choke on a ham sandwich. This myth, perpetuated by pulp culture references, has unfairly overshadowed her remarkable talent. In 2020, journalist Sue Cameron admitted she had spread the false story in Elliot's obituary, claiming it was at the request of Elliot's manager, Alan Cour, who decided that the humiliating falsehood was preferable to any implication that Elliot's death was associated with substance abuse. The music world mourned the loss of one of its most distinctive voices. Cass Elliot's untimely death cut short a career that had already left an indelible mark on popular music. Her influence extended far beyond her time with the Mamas and Papas, inspiring generations of singers with her powerful voice and emotional depth. In the years since her passing, Cass's legacy has only grown. Her music continues to resonate with new generations of listeners, and her life story has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and tributes. She is remembered not just for her incredible voice, but for her wit, her warmth, and her courage in challenging society's norms. Cass Elliot's life was a testament to the power of talent, perseverance, and authenticity. From her early days in the folk scene to her rise with the Mamas and the Papas and her solo career, she left an incredible mark on the music industry. Her struggles with weight, substance abuse, and the pressures of fame humanized her, making her triumphs all the more inspiring. Cass's legacy extends beyond her musical contributions. She symbolizes resilience, body positivity, and staying true to oneself in adversity. Her powerful voice, both literally and figuratively, inspires and moves people decades after her passing. So what can we learn from this story? What's the takeaway? In the annals of rock and roll and folk music, Cass Elliot remains a towering figure, a woman whose talent, personality, and spirit helped define an era and whose influence continues to resonate in music and popular culture. Well, there you go, my friends. That's life, I swear. For further information regarding the material covered in this episode, I invite you to visit my website, which you can find on Apple Podcasts, for show notes and the episode transcript. As always, I thank you for the privilege of you listening and your interest. Be sure to subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And we'll see you soon.